call to order this meeting of the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability. This is our October regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 11th, and it is 6:02 p.m. We are, again, without a secretary, and it seems that we are without a vice chair as well. In the absence of both, I will ask who will be willing to serve as the secretary, at least for the start of this meeting.
I can do it.
Excellent, thank you. So if you'd like, I can call roll because I already have that up. If you would just record the responses. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so Christina Anderson, Matt Austin.
Here.
Caitlin Edwards.
She's on the computer.
Indeed. Caitlin, are you present and do you have audio? Okay. Emma Ferguson.
Here.
Matt Flaherty. Alicia Hardy.
Here.
Nolan Hendon.
Here.
Anya Jane. David Maynor.
Here.
Sean Mia.
Here.
Najla Routsong. Joseph Winia, I am here. And Caitlin Edwards, I will call you once again for roll. Looks like you are present.
Is there something in the chat?
Good question. Indeed there is. Caitlin cannot hear anything and will log off and rejoin. Looks like the Zoom audio might be muted.
Yeah.
Oh.
Looks like the
There we
owl. Okay. Nuts.
Well,
Sorry.
she'll be back.
Sorry, Caitlin. Well, I will, in the meantime, note that, so this is the agenda as it was distributed on Sunday the 9th. I do have an alternate agenda that I would like to propose, and I will give you the opportunity to read now. That includes all of the same items that were previously listed, as well as a few new items, in particular potential election for a secretary position that became available since the previous agenda was distributed, as well as just a couple of other items of discussion, not resolution. So, as Caitlin rejoins,
I get the minute up to the top there.
it should be.
Hey, Dylan.
Yeah. Okay. Hello again, Caitlin. Can you hear us now?
Okay, I hear you.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. For roll call sake, I will call your name for attendance. It's Caitlin Edwards. You present?
Here.
Excellent. Thank you. So, with that completed, what you just missed is this is a proposed updated agenda. So this is the one that was distributed on Sunday, and then this is a proposed updated agenda that has a couple of new items on it that I will move that we adopt, or I guess, is there any objection to adopting the updated agenda or discussion? All right, seeing none, the agenda is adopted, or approved rather, and then we can go ahead and proceed to approval of minutes, which I guess actually we don't have minutes ready for this month. Those will get rolled over to the following month. So we can go ahead and proceed to public comment. So each member of the public will have 3 minutes to speak. I think we'll start with members in the room if there are any, and we don't have any on Zoom. So are you interested in making a comment?
I'll try to keep it in 3 minutes.
Okay.
My name is Larry Howard. I've been a farmer here in Monroe County for almost 20 years. I was president of the Bloomington Food Policy Council for a while, and also a founding member of the farm stock, Roseville Farm Stock down there.
Thank you. If I can interject quickly, if you could approach one of the mics so that virtual...
Do I get to start my time over? I'm just kidding. I'll just read a quick statement about our vision and based on some data that we recently obtained. According to the most recent data, Monroe County has about 52 to 54,000 households, 2.4 persons per household that spend an average of about $7,000 per household on food per year. That's a total of $362 million, which flowed out of the county mostly to large food conglomerates. At the same time, about 0.5% of the population engaged in mostly part-time agriculture that produced a mere $13 million in agricultural produce, and that cost about $16 million to make that. So about $755,000 of that loss was tax money, taxpayer money, and the rest was either subsidized by in-town or mostly corporate jobs or bank loans. About 52,000 acres of the county's 296,000 acres was used in agricultural production. That's down from around 150,000 in 1950. And if we were overwhelmingly to succeed in our goal, Monroe County would need to have just a mere 350 small farms run by 2% of our population, each serving about 150 households and using about 300 acres each. These farms would feed over 52,000 households, employ 4 times the number of households in farming, return 105,000 acres to loving stewardship, and generate a $420 million local economy in food, which is a $782 million swing in the amount of dollars circulating in our local economy. This would require a mere 15% increase in the average household expenditure on food, that's average, to about $8,000 per year, but it would result in a 300 to 700% increase in nutrient density and the health profile of our food, and an untold savings in sick care. So we think that subverting the industrial food system is well worth the time and effort. The quick comment that I wanted to make was about food waste, which is a very important topic. And I know that there's some work going on in that. I just wanted to say, if somebody has an engineering background, be careful about over-optimizing. I think you guys already know this. Over-optimizing, when you improve something in one area, the tendency is to take away from other areas. If we're spending more energy on doing food waste, reclamation, in terms of fossil fuels, in terms of processing it, heating it, transporting it, and all those other things, than we are getting out of it in benefit, then there isn't really no net benefit. So think holistically is and we have one group, as far as I know, here in Bloomington. I think it's called Earthkeepers. They are certified, they are licensed, they are ready to go. We need to help support them whatever way we can and try to replicate what they've done, help other people replicate, help them help other people replicate, because I'm sure they want more of what they're doing. So that's my comment.
Excellent, thank you very much. You are at 3 minutes
you,
and a
Larry.
second.
Thank you.
All right, see no other members of the public at all, and no one on Zoom.
So
Are there
if I
any-
could make a quick comment, I asked Larry to come in. We buy, he has a CSA for meat. And it's out in Ellisville, and we buy most of our meat from there. We get our chicken feed from there as well. And I asked him to come in to make a quick statement. It was really, he's looking into trying to get soldier flies, building up a soldier fly business. The larva will eat a lot of stuff that he can't currently let his animals consume. He collects thousands of pounds on a monthly basis from various catering businesses, food that's not, that's from the prep side, right? So veggies and fruits and things like that. We recently had black soldier flies in our compost, and so we learned about them, and he can literally take a lot of the other food that you can't and are not legally allowed to feed to pigs and to farm animals, and you grind it down, you dry it out, and you feed it to these black soldier flies, and their larvae then can become they're fantastic protein for chickens. So it's essentially a closed loop system in which we can work towards the city's climate plan of reducing waste by 40%. We could have a lot more food waste that we couldn't process previously that could go to operations that like Larry's, that he's trying to build. So he's extremely knowledgeable. It's called Harvest Partners if anybody's looking for a meat CSA.
That's his what? Is that his?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Harvest Partners out in Ellisville. So fantastic operation. And I had no clue that he'd been the president of the Food Council or all those other things. So
What do you say, 300 farms?
350, yeah.
At 300 acres each, though, that's a pretty big farm. Just 1 acre is a lot of farm.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to remember what the math was. He said, was it 300
I thought he said
farms?
3 acres.
I thought he said 300.
Oh, I thought it was 300 farms at 3 acres.
Yeah,
Oh.
that sounds more realistic.
Okay,
but yeah.
okay, just
I
check.
should have taken my notes.
I want him to know, I want like his little text blurb.
Right,
Yeah.
this will be recorded by Cats and available.
Cool, great.
And I'm going to rewatch that.
I know, I want to know, because I want to be one of those farms.
Very
One
information
of the
dense.
three.
Yeah, Larry and his family are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, are there any other, thank you for that. Are there any other commissioner comments?
The Earthkeepers that he was talking about, that
Mhm.
said what's their function
So-
in that process?
So, what is their function in
They're
that
composters.
process? Yeah, they're composters, so maybe some of the food waste that he can't accept goes to them. I know Earthkeepers buys their chicken feed from Larry as well. I didn't realize that you could be thrown in jail for feeding your pigs the wrong things when it comes to food waste. But other than that, I don't know exactly what their relationship is. If there is well, he actually wants to do the black soldier fly, and he would be working with Earthkeepers because of the amount of food food waste they currently pick up. That would be another option, and then they both would be able to use the larva to feed their chickens.
So this
as
is
well.
kind of the same thing as like the mealworms, where they make protein for actually animals and people.
I mean, we use mealworms, but we don't grow them, so I don't know how well mealworms, if they do go through food waste as fast as the black soldier flies. I don't know. Our personal experience is we have them in our worm composting bins, and they actually kill bad bugs as well. So that's been another beneficial aspect of them. So I think it would be a joint operation to build the black soldier fly system. He told me there's a company in Ohio that does that, and they actually freeze dry them and sell them as that way. But if we're really trying to, as a city wants to reduce food waste or waste by 40%, food waste is a big opportunity within that, and we're going to need to work with farms and other people that can actually handle all this stuff and do it in a way that produces either soil or grubs or other things like that has a closed loop system that stays in this within our county.
Right. Any other commissioner comments? All right. Seeing none, that concludes public comment, and we will go on to agenda item number 6, which is reports from acting chair, or report, singular. A few items to report. First, as I mentioned at the start, so our Commissioner Sarah Congress resigned and was also our secretary, so that leaves the secretary position open, which is the first item of business under the discussion section of today's agenda. Second is there was I wanted to note that the kind of annual report was submitted to the council office, so I will find out later this week when that will be presented. And that was also an item on Lauren's list. And then lastly, there was a regional climate convening that was held last week on the 4th, and it was held here in Bloomington, and Mayor Hamilton of the City of Bloomington and Mayor Linnep of the City of Columbus were present and gave opening remarks. The keynote speaker was Tom Lindbarger, who is the executive chairman of Cummins, the diesel engine manufacturer. So he had a lot to say about partnerships and trying to move towards sustainability as much as possible, which is interesting hearing from the leader of an executive or of a diesel engine manufacturing company. But the bulk of the convening was centered around 3 panels. The first one was impacts of climate change in South Central Indiana. The second was current and upcoming landscape for public and private climate action. And the third was next steps for a tri-county partnership. So from a BCO's point of view, I didn't see a lot of obvious connection points for us to dig into. We haven't generally been operating in sort of a tri-county regional scope, but that doesn't mean that we can't. So just wanted to relay that took place and that there's interest from both mayors, at least in trying to get a sort of broader scope of climate action engagement, both public and private, and trying to foster that. So I know the BCOs can work sort of within that space between. So a good thing to know that has happened, and if anyone has any particular thoughts or ideas, it's something that we could engage with.
Also a recording I can send out.
Is there?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's good to know. So the recording will be shared by Lauren. Thank you. You can now all participate. And actually, that concludes everything I had to report as chair. Are there any questions on that report? All right, seeing none, we can go on to report from Staff Liaison. Lauren.
Sure. I am also gonna read Councilmember Flaherty's items. Just a second. Okay. He was also present in 2 capacities at the Regional Climate Convening, both as a panelist for ERI and then as a council member. I think the only other items on that, we had about 85 attendees. It was 1 per organization, and it was a broad range of mostly private entities and, you know, regional development organizations to talk about making broader regional commitments and collaborating on climate goals. It was hosted jointly by both mayors, you mentioned that. Another item from Councilmember Flaherty, the 2023 budget meeting with potential final action is tomorrow night. It's possible that the vote could extend to the following week, but that's another opportunity to be engaged if that's something that you're following. It does need to be passed within the next couple of weeks because it has to get submitted to the state budget office. Councilmember Flaherty's October constituent meeting is Monday, October 17th from 5:30 to 6:30 via Zoom. Details on the council calendar. And then we will be jointly holding a Council Climate Action and Resilience Committee meeting next week, October 18th at 6 p.m. Some agenda items will include Climate Action Plan progress updates, which I will also be presenting to full council next Wednesday, the 19th, with a progress report, which I will circulate to all of you and we can discuss at next month's meeting. Some other agenda items for that Council Climate Committee meeting include a potential discussion about pathways to transition gas-powered off-road equipment, things like high polluting leaf blowers, etc. And I think that's it for Councilmember Flaherty. On my end, I think a couple of things of note. We received designation for Soul Smart Gold, which is through the Department of Energy, and it's to work on market development for solar installations. I think we'll continue our commitment to trying to get more commercial solar installations next year. So working on programming and keeping in touch with all of that. On the progress report, that will be within the mayor's report of the agenda next Wednesday, but there will be more of an opportunity in the committee meeting for broad discussion. Those tend to have more time for discussion, and it will be posted on the website afterwards as well in the same section that the climate and sustainability reports are posted. And I think we have an item about zero and later in the agenda, so I'll probably wait on that, but that's, I think, probably most of it for now.
All right, thank you. Any questions on the report? All right, I guess either report. Not that we can necessarily answer on Matt's behalf, but that concludes both the report from Staff Liaison and Council ex officio then. And we can go on to reports from commissioners, starting with our working groups. I think we'll go in the order of heat, then waste, then just transition, if that works for everyone.
Sure.
Sean, if you would.
The Heat Management Task Force had their first meeting last Thursday. It was well attended. We had people from planning, emergency response, and public health, and everyone's really excited about working on a heat management plan. We've decided to meet monthly. We're going to meet the first Thursday of every month. So right now we're just in an investigative phase. We have a lot of questions. We want to look into what type of resources are available, what type of funding is available. We had questions about the Climate Action Plan and if there was funding available through that. We're researching all of that. We wanted to know if there's funding specific for different departments within the city for heat management. So it's in the Climate Action Plan, but what money is allocated for that? So we plan to invite Dr. Dana Habib to one of our meetings to explain what her process was for creating a Beat the Heat program for the cities of Richmond and Clarksville, and we want to learn, what worked for them, what didn't work. So lessons learned kind of a presentation. And the people from the Public Health Department are looking into sources for heat-related illness data. So far we don't know where that information is being stored. I went on the Indiana Department of Public Health's website, and there's no place where you can look for heat-related illness data. So that's a big question for us. We want to know where we're at as a baseline. And then if we do end up doing any type of mitigation or adaptation programs, we want to see if we're being effective. So that's one way to do that. And the last thing is Sarah has left our working group, and so we're looking for another member to join us. So if anyone has any interest, just let me know. So, thank you.
I did like the council office now that seat's vacant, so I'll keep you guys updated when they are doing interviews next.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Sean. Waste reduction working group. Anyone interested in providing an update?
Sure.
You go. No, you go. I had it.
So on our 3 objectives, one was cartons. I contacted the Carton Council, and one of their regional representative, Jim Cunningham, got back to me. We've got a meeting, I think it's next week, the 19th, and he's looking to contact the whoever the city contractor is, and so he's going to set a meeting with them. He basically told me that he would work directly with the contractor. They would give him, they'd get him a grant to help to start and set up the system within their existing facility, and they also have a grant for the city for education. So we're just seeing if that's a viable option based on what the contractor currently does. So we're waiting on that. And what was the other?
The signs were made.
Oh, the signs we made. And then for the
Compost.
go ahead.
Oh, we put together some advertising marketing materials to put outside some of the recycling centers to advertise the compost program of Earthkeepers, just to kind of bring attention to it, tell people that they can sign up and things like that. So we put together some signage for that because Joe was working with them. They found they had a budget for some signage, and so we're partnering with them to help put together some signage.
For the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District recycling centers.
Correct.
So that people know that they can bring their compost there and that there will be a fee to do that. But we want to encourage more people to be aware of that. Similar to what Larry said, and getting more people involved in that aspect.
Indeed. Thank you.
That's it.
Any questions on the report? Wait, actually, I'm sorry. Just transition. Angela, if you want to
Go for it.
say your...
Yeah, so we met and we are finalizing the policies selection that we're going to be presenting to the key stakeholders at our public town hall events that are going to be coming up this fall. We decided to delay those by a few weeks on our planned schedule. So those will be in November instead of October. And we agreed on some assessment criteria that include the UN SDGs and the city's sustainability goals, as well as just some general areas around impact in the various areas, right? So environmental impact, equity impact, that sort of thing. So, and we're hoping to use those criteria as sort of a framework in our event, at our kind of town hall event. Since we're going to be inviting a ton of people, hoping to make some serious decisions in a small amount of time, we're hoping to really sort of have it planned and ready to go. So that's, I think, about it to report. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Thank you all. Any questions on any of those reports? All right, seeing none, that is complete. And we are on to agenda item number 10, discussions, not resolutions, starting with the election of a secretary. So I pulled up the bylaws, and there is not an awful lot of information on defining an election process. So what I will move to do is that we do a round of nominations, followed by votes on the nominees.
Okay.
Is there a second?
second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. I guess, is there perhaps, maybe we'll do this as unanimous consent. Is there any objection to approaching with the election in that manner? Okay, so seeing none, are there any nominations for a secretary? And one can nominate oneself. I will add, if anyone so chooses. In the absence of any nominations, I would like to nominate Emma, who, if I recall correctly, had expressed interest at our annual elections in, I think it was February or March. So, if you accept the nomination, or do you accept the nomination?
Emma accepts nomination.
You can also rewatch the recordings if you would like to speak and not take notes on them. So, excellent. Okay, are there any other nominations? All right, seeing none, I think we should still take it to a vote to formalize it, which is funny because you're already serving as secretary. So if you would go ahead and do a roll call vote, because we do have a virtual attendee.
Okay. Do I have to say the names of the people that aren't here?
Negative. Only those attending.
Matt Austin.
Yes.
Caitlin Edwards.
Yes.
David Maynor.
Yes.
Sean Mia.
Yes.
Najla Ratsong.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Nolan.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Alicia Hardy.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Sean, did you get as well? Okay, great. That should be everybody then. So, thank you for that. That passes unanimously, and we do have a quorum. Yes, forgot to mention that at the start. So, thank you, and congratulations to our new secretary.
What a landslide victory.
All right. So with that completed, our next item of discussions is compost captains, and also in parentheses, neighborhood composting resources. That was,
Broad summary of an email.
okay.
Trying to remember who that was from to add it to the agenda. I think there had been a discussion in one of the last two meetings about engagement around waste education and potentially citing some pickup locations for community composting locations to get people active. I think it would probably be something that we would look at for next year. We have, like, to the point about funding, there is some funding in the budget right now for sustainability grants, and that could be a potential source of funding to help support a compost captain program, but if that's something that the waste management group would be interested in looking into. I've had some initial conversations with Earthkeepers about places that would be good locations to site compost pickups, and those potentially being places like businesses or finding a partner that would be willing to accept the liability of hosting one of the bins. There's one on the Beeline if you want to see it. It's basically a cabinet, and they're locked with a lockbox, but I think that could be a great way to increase access without a lot of additional barriers for composting collection. And Kendra's been doing some mapping about the areas in Bloomington that lack access right now, whether it's because you're living in a multifamily unit and there's not a lot of options, or you're just far from one of these district drop-off centers.
I think it might have been part of my email. I sent a link with a podcast. There's a group out in San Diego, and They call themselves soil farmers, so there's multiple people. They serve about 380 families on a lot of multifamily housing units. And they have a system where they even charge folks, and the soil farmers actually grow their own compost, get paid for taking it in, and even sell some of the soil. So if anybody's interested in that podcast, I can send it your way. There's even a 14-minute shorter version that kind of tells how to set it up, and so that could be a nice framework for what we're trying to do with compost captains. And then we could have somebody like Larry, who I would call a compost king more than a compost captain. But yeah, it was just nice to see other communities doing it and kind of giving us a framework for how we might want to do it. We could do it as a for-profit thing or obviously a not-for-profit as well.
Who picks those up?
What's that?
Who picks up, like the one on the beeline? Is that Earthkeepers?
That's Earthkeepers.
And that would be the framework for what we're looking to go forward with?
Possibly. I mean, it's an option.
Yeah.
So we want as much composting as possible. The composting captain's idea is actually people who in neighborhoods that are already composting and saying, are you willing to take some of your neighbor's compost? Right? So it doesn't even have anything to do with Earthkeepers. It's just saying, you already compost, would you be willing to take more? And then putting a sign out saying that those are the compost captains, and then trying to enroll folks to then drop their compost.
And they would use it potentially on site at the person who collects it? Or
Yeah, the person who collects it would then compost it, and they would use it. If they're already composting, they're probably using the soil already. So that would kind of be the idea, just to locate it within the neighborhoods instead of having to take it out somewhere else, like Larry was talking about, is cutting out those additional inputs of gasoline and travel, et cetera, and just keeping it right there. So I mean, one of them could be like if you want to do a drop-off location, but it would have to be managed, would be the community orchard, right? That's centrally located. There's a lot of houses right around that, but it still has to be managed accordingly. So that would be the challenge.
I think it's sometimes difficult because, like he was mentioning, Earthkeepers is the only one that's permitted to accept it from like larger entities, like.
Right.
But I think there is some space there in sort of the informal compost market that became evident through the mulching project and other things where people were asking, is there an opportunity for us to accept like other people? So it's kind of like a mutual aid model.
Yeah, I do want to note that the compost captain's concept was in the scope of the waste reduction working group, and it's really just a distributed, unmanaged sort of neighborhood scale exchange. When we talk about, or when you mention something like a larger drop-off collection center, I think it's important to keep in mind that there's going to be limits of scale that are regulated by different bodies once you get above a certain volume. So this is really about targeting just the smallest, like at-home, like personal managed scale. And yeah, as the public comment was mentioned as well, letting larger scale collections be supported by the organizations that are set up and certified for doing it. So yeah, Earthkeepers does have a drop-off network that can also be expanded for that scale of collection, but Compost Captains is much more about sort of education and at-home type collective efforts.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, ideally I think it would be as low cost as possible as well, but there could be a benefit of having funds for just setting up the bin infrastructure for those who decide to participate. But any other commissioner thoughts or questions on that agenda item? All right, thank you for that. So our next item of discussion is zoning and urban agriculture. I also don't know who was the point on that one. Well. Is it? Okay.
So this is specifically about chickens. Right now the city has a max of 5 chickens, and if anybody that takes care of chickens knows, 5 is not nearly enough to feed a family if you're doing it primarily for eggs, especially once your chickens get between 2 and 3 years old and their production starts to drop off. And with the annexation potentially happening, there are going to be multiple households that currently have more than 5 chickens that are going to be annexed in, and that's going to be an issue to say the least. So I looked up other cities in Indiana as to see cities that do allow chickens, how many do they allow? Because I think this was in the early 2000s during the bird flu when it got passed originally, and the world has changed significantly since then. So it makes sense to update how many chickens people can have. So as an example, Indianapolis allows 12 chickens and a rooster. I'm not going for roosters, but just so you know. Evansville, 6 plus a rooster. Fishers, there's no maximum, and you can have a rooster. Fort Wayne, no max, and you can have a rooster. South Bend, 6. Terre Haute, no max. New Albany, no max. Right. So my proposal, especially from the waste management group, because if people are going to be compost captains, if they have more chickens, they're probably going to be willing to accept more waste, which doesn't then go to the landfill, would be based on the amount of land, the lot size. So it could be 1/4 acres, 5, 1/2 acres, 10. If you have an acre, you can have up to 15, and we set a max of 15 or 20, something to that effect. But if we really want to reduce waste, we really want to become more sustainable, producing your own food, and or giving your chickens your waste, and then giving you food in exchange is a pretty good return on your investment. Does anybody else have chickens, or know anybody that has chickens? No. Besides,
I do.
Okay. So would you find benefit in being allowed to have more than 5? Okay. I'm guessing most people that have chickens would probably say the same. They do require 12 square feet of space per the city's, the UDO, but most people already have more than enough space in their coop and run to accept that. So, yeah.
All right, thank you for that introduction. Are there any commissioner following thoughts? Seeing none, I would like to ask what, I guess given that presentation of information, how would you like to proceed with it? I mean, you've stated your stance. What then?
I would like to have a discussion to see what are the parameters. Does it make sense to, I mean, based on the other cities, some have no max, some have slightly more than us, some have double the amount that Bloomington allows. What makes sense? The average lot size is 1/4 acre, give or take. So does it make sense just to say a max number, or does it make sense to say based on your lot size is how many you're allowed to have?
My question would be, what does it take to change zoning laws? That would be my question. What's the process for changing a law like that? Does anybody know? Like literally.
Scratch out the 5 and put in the 15, or just add a 1 in front of the 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, and that kind of the nature of like what we're able to do. I mean, we can make a resolution. I don't know who it would go to. I don't know what the process is either.
So I spoke with Sam, who's on the environmental council, and he said that he's the chair of the environmental council. He said that was not their purview, and he felt that it was more our purview. So I do not know, but I guess I will have to research that because this is something that I am committed to.
Would you like that to be present then, perhaps on next month's agenda?
Sure.
Okay.
I think it's a general question about zoning changes, because I think a lot of our problems are about zoning problems. So maybe just generally understanding how zoning changes can happen would be helpful, I think, because.
It depends on what the change is. I can't
Sure.
speak to like chickens per acre, but some of the UDO amendments have to go in front of council. Some of them are just internal administratively passed, so I'm not sure, but it would be a planning question.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I would just also want to know, like, what are the arguments on the other side? So what's the hazard of having too many chickens, I guess? You know, why do people restrict them in the first place?
Noise, lack of care.
So yeah, I just want to know more about that, like why those aren't issues, you know, how those have been addressed in all this, or if they have, or what we think about them.
Gotcha.
Excellent thoughts. Any others? Great. Thank you all for that. Thank you for bringing that up. Next on the agenda is upcoming resolutions. Item D, was that?
That was me. I
your
just wanted
addition?
to say we only have 2 meetings left for the year, so if you are looking to develop a resolution, even if you're trying to get it passed at the beginning of next year, now would be a great time to start on that. Especially because we need to get enough commissioner input at the point where it's written, so just keep that in mind. If there have been other things that you are considering or would like to get passed as resolutions, we just need to work on that together. More of a comment.
Indeed. No, thank you for that comment. To my knowledge, there's only the adoption of the SDGs pending as a resolution that we've discussed. I know there are none in discussion for the waste reduction working group. Were there any others that commissioners were considering in their working groups?
Yeah, I mean, I think in just transition, we're hoping to have a resolution or more
Okay.
to come out of these events.
Okay, but that will be following.
It'd be following these events in November, so.
Okay. That would be a later time on it. All right. That sounds good. Any thoughts that you wanted to share with respect to the one resolution that we have pending that you were penning?
Very indirectly connected. But if all of you could tell me, as you're going through your working groups, where, if you could approximate a number of hours that you could use some support from, like the student that came and spoke last time with her group. I want to find a place to actually place them so that they can start working on projects and getting project hours and helping you in your initiatives. So if you can give me an estimate of hours per week and what the function and role would be, then I can move forward on trying to find some facilitators.
Would it be sufficient to provide those by the next meeting, or is there a particular timeline on this?
I'm still about 4 months out from my program formally launching.
Okay.
However, within that time period, if I don't want anybody to be waiting for an opportunity to do something. So if you can reach out to me with what you need, how long you need them, and really what it would entail, then I can get that word out to them.
Yes, they can research zoning laws and how to do that
I
change.
literally was just thinking about that. I'm like, there's got to be somebody that's studying government right now,
Right.
that already knows the process.
I
And
mean, that's zoning, isn't it? Isn't all zoning planning?
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's the planning department.
Call or visit or email.
Maybe they just call it plan.
they'll let you know if they have to put it in front of council, and then that'll be like 2 months, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't think it's us though. But yeah, we could definitely make recommendations to whomever it is, right?
Right.
And as for the,
That's his support.
the
And it definitely is within
Uh,
this,
resolution.
like, as you said, the sustainability
I'll
purview.
have that
so.
next
Yeah.
time
Okay.
to vote.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, we'll need 2 readings. I'm sorry.
No, just 2 readings.
Yes, just that's all. We'll have a first reading and discussion, and then we won't be able to vote on it until the following meeting.
Okay.
Which is, I think, part of why Lauren mentioned that the
Close up the year.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
to keep the timeline in mind, because we have to wait for 2 meetings. It's not something we can just present and vote on
Right.
in one.
So a resolution needs to be presented 2 meetings ahead of when it's voted on now?
It would be, I think we can vote on it after the second reading. So there have to be 2 meetings total. It has to be a first reading in 1 meeting, and then
Mhm.
the second meeting can be read and then voted on.
Okay,
But just to make sure that it's not just 1 meeting.
so it still just requires a first reading and then we could vote in the next one.
Precisely. So, okay. Any further thoughts related to resolutions? All right. Then we can proceed to, let's see how we're doing. Yes. There's an agenda item that we have touched on a couple of times. It is the IU Office of Sustainability Commission seat. Presently, I think as we learned last time, it is the director of the office or their appointee. So I know there's been interest in establishing increased involvement with the university as a significant player and as somebody who could, I think, potentially benefit from being more connected with the city. Are there any existing commissioner thoughts on pursuing how to make good use of that seat?
I'm poking around that right now.
Excellent.
To see, I'm speaking to some deans to see how they fill their roles, and then I'll reach out to that because that's part of my program anyway.
Okay.
So I have to contact the Office of Sustainability, and if they need help finding an appointee, then I might be able to help them with that, and then we'll get one in return.
That's fantastic. Thank
So
you for the
that's the
update.
plan.
Okay. Do you have any need for additional commission participation, or is it sufficiently managed?
Well, the commission I'll probably ask for support when I'm running up there for suggesting an appointee or anything like that.
Okay.
But right now, just I need to know what kind of projects I can place people in. My other group, Project Management Institute, is actually helping me develop the plan to approach the city and the school with. So
Okay.
I think I'm good on that front.
All right. Thank you for that. Any other commissioner thoughts? All right. I think that sounds great.
More hands.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
It might have to get changed. Well, if you look at the code for like BCOS, it is an appointed seat. So if it becomes like IU instead of IU Office of Sustainability, I can check with legal about switching the seat allocation. But they did just announce a new director, so I think there will possibly be more progress than when the seat was vacant or the position was vacant.
Okay. All right. Very good. That brings us then to our last item of discussion for this meeting, which is the Zero in Bloomington, the new community action website that we've... Yeah, platform, thank you. There's the word I was looking for. Community action platform that we've been introduced to and been able to sign up for. I had sent out an email shortly after our last meeting, I think. Kaylin had mentioned interest in how the BCOS can help serve to broaden the reach of this platform. And so I didn't receive any responses to the email, but still wanted to create the opportunity now in case there was benefit from in-person discussion about ways in which the BCOS can potentially help fill that role. I am curious also, just personally, if anyone signed up and what they thought of it. So I'll just kind of open it up with that. And
I can also speak to some of the outreach that we're doing as well. So she's working with IU, but also with some of the other organizations like Earthcare and the Rotary Club to get some community organizations that are already active in this space that are looking for sustainability actions that they can take and building campaigns with them. So if any of you have other organizations that you're affiliated with outside of BCOS that would be interested in participating, I think the first goal is to just get people registered, and then we're also looking at like what types of other informal networks that might have a sustainability committee, like a neighborhood association, that instead of replicating all of these resources that already exist now on the site, we can get people acting in a more collective fashion. So that's what we're started with, and then there's going to be more of a structured campaign between January and Earth Day of next year. So I think a lot of it right now is just trying to connect with different groups that may not have necessarily engaged with the city in any capacity before, and I think that's something that commissions are really great for, because it kind of creates a bridge between City Hall and the rest of the community that may not always be plugged in with what's happening here.
cool, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any of those off the tops of their head?
I work at Ivy Tech. That might be a good place
Yeah.
to start.
Cool.
Because usually community members, it's not like We have a lot of guest students, but we also have a lot of people that live in Bloomington, so,
No, that's great.
yeah.
I might follow up with you and we can get connected.
Others?
I mean, I'm connected to a lot of organizations through the Orchard. I mean, we're about to send out a survey to like a bunch of different organizations, so I'm sure we can collaborate there.
Slip that in the survey.
Yeah, right? Just go to this website.
Nice, yeah, that'd be great.
I work at IU Environmental Health and Safety. I could, if there's a little blurb, I could put like in a break room or something just to advertise it there.
I could send you a
So-
flyer too.
Oh, there's a flyer. Yeah. Okay.
Caitlin, did I hear you unmute? Sorry, I've had my Zoom screen compressed, so I haven't seen you. If you wanted to participate, I apologize. But, okay. Anyone else?
I was just gonna say, I don't know how well I can be heard. I'm getting probably 65 to 70% of the meeting, so it's a little bit fuzzy. So, but my household did sign up for the platform, so it was kind of fun to look at and to start kind of seeing what recommendations we already kind of used in my household and go from there. After the initial assessment, I would say and this is just a general review from me, and I just kind of logged in and got set up, so pretty novice, but it was, the next steps were a little bit unclear after kind of getting my initial profile set up. I was just kind of left a little bit wondering, okay, what are some good next steps? So that might just be something I think to think about. The other thing I was going to add is there's a statewide student interest group with the School of Medicine in the state of Indiana that focuses on sustainability. So that might be a good platform, especially our local Bloomington resident students might be interested in. So I can let them know about it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry about the audio difficulties.
Yeah, I mean, it's growing slowly. We've got 66 people registered, so I think it can be a good jumping off point for people that are just looking to get more information, especially if it relates to your working group. Like, I could see a situation where at some point, you know, doing other composting outreach, that it's a good place to point people to and track their progress.
All right.
And remind me, is that only for city residents, or is it can we use it for county as well?
You can. We're gonna get a second option. So that's been a pretty common question, and we're gonna, right now it just says the council districts, or you can say I don't live in Bloomington, I live in Steinsville, but we're gonna do a drop down for Monroe County, not Bloomington, so that people can participate on teams together. So
Gotcha.
city limits are pretty arbitrary. Most people have a Bloomington address, so that way people can have all the aspects of the site without being, you know, arbitrarily excluded.
Gotcha. I was just thinking with Earthkeepers and their bins, if we could put up,
Yeah.
you know, a notice on that, because those are the
Yeah.
people that have a mentality that would probably
Yeah.
fill this out, and they're going there anyways. So.
That's fine, but I have to lie about where I live, so. I'll delete my account at some point, so. Skew your numbers.
I like your rebel participation.
That was close.
All right.
Would it be possible to have a computer set up here in City Hall that, you know, where people could fill it out? I know it does take a little while, and there's a lot of information that they collect. I stopped about halfway through
Yeah.
going through it. I still have to complete it. But would it make sense to do that, or, you know, maybe have that computer set up at a farmer's market, you know, with a sign, fill out your information.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Or public library.
Public
Like,
library,
Monroe
yeah.
Public library could have some information if they were willing to host it.
Yeah, we've been working with them.
Have you? Okay.
But I think that's a good idea, just in terms of like having a public computer for
Right.
registration.
Right. Dave?
Has there been any efforts in developing either a social media position or creating a social media presence for all of our initiatives, anything that we want to get out, promoting involvement, anything? Is there anything in place like that? Has there been a discussion before?
Are you thinking with respect to the Commission on Sustainability specifically, or the
Yes.
City of Bloomington?
Commission specifically specifically because,
Okay.
for example, like Earthkeepers, all the working groups, again, trying to generate involvement and engagement. A couple TikTok videos, Instagram posts, but that's that's hitting harder than anything else. So
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I just didn't know if that's been discussed before. If not, then maybe it's a position or a role that we could possibly include here. If we're already trying to, I don't know what it takes to get a position on the commission, but if we have a secretary, treasurer, the traditional things, we should probably consider adding social media guru. I don't know.
Outreach coordinator.
Right, right.
You said you do that at, where do you do that?
I'm an outreach coordinator for PMI, but
Oh.
not social media.
Oh. Well, you said, you just gave examples, but who was doing that? Like, is it a private organization?
That's doing the social media?
Yeah.
It's actually one of our volunteers
Oh.
that basically runs a lot of our IT stuff, and then they have a team of volunteers beneath them that help generate content. They all have one will do LinkedIn, one will do Twitter, one will do Instagram, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But content creation will be the hardest part. But there are skilled students that will be able to do that in an afternoon and probably provide us with enough for months, just what we could provide them in this meeting tonight. All right. I'm presuming, I don't really know the work that goes into it, so maybe it's more complicated than that, but I think it is something that we should look into in order to generate some engagement and just awareness of everything that we're trying to accomplish. And you can actually gauge how much something will be able to generate interest using that. So it's just something I think we should look into.
I see it now. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Who cares? Because 5
How
chickens
many are there?
isn't enough.
Plus one rooster.
I think it's a really good suggestion, and I think we can add that to next month's meeting agenda.
If there's a way, if there's not a volunteer engagement, there might be a way to generate more, if we can fund it as an intern position, or if the city has resources that we can use, that would be another great avenue to investigate. But
Yeah, maybe there's already a social media manager.
It is, yeah.
Coordinator.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
could ask them to put together some content. Like, here's some materials that we're working on, can you put together and make it look digitally?
Pretty.
Engaging.
I do not want to assume, I don't want to sound like I'm making the assumption that it's not hard work to do all that stuff, because I don't know how to do it properly.
Right.
So
It's just
I want to make sure that if it's a role that requires a lot, that they are getting something in return, or compensated fairly.
As long as we don't have to learn any TikTok dances.
A few. There's got to be a few. Deal. I've been working on one for 2 years. I still can't get it. It's the little.
I think we can pick that up in next month's meeting when we have it on the agenda.
Work on it.
Okay. We are near the end of our scheduled end time. Are there any other thoughts related to that social media item to present for next month's meeting?
We don't have one specifically for the commission, but we have a Facebook page, and I've posted things related to the commission in the past, so I think it's just a question of coordinating when things get out. We just, Michaela and I also just started a newsletter, and we'll probably be doing that quarterly too, so happy to have BCOS updates and that as well.
Thank you. All right. I think that will wrap up our last discussion item. We don't have any resolutions for first or second reading or new business or time for new business. I did want to offer the opportunity, Kendra. Did you have anything that you wanted to add to the meeting? Anything in particular you wanted to express?
No. I guess first, hi, I'm Kendra. I am the new fellow, which is essentially an intern at the Bloomington Department of Economic and Sustainable Development. So I'm working right now largely on like composting initiatives and recycling initiatives. So I'd be in contact with some of you guys at some point, but yeah, just wanted to like come to the meeting, figure out what you guys are doing because you're doing really good work, and yeah, just kind of I'm still getting adjusted, still learning everything that's happening, and just kind of yeah, trying to figure out where to integrate myself into that. So thanks.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to adjournment. If there are no objections, the meeting will adjourn. There's a second and no objections, so the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you, everyone.